In the vast landscape of Japanese animation, where Studio Ghibli crafts visual poetry and Makoto Shinkai paints emotions with light, there exist dark corners so horrifying that even the bravest otaku dare not tread. Today, dear reader, I shall be your guide through this animated underworld, this purgatory of poorly drawn frames and scripts seemingly written by malfunctioning AI. Prepare yourself for a journey through the worst animated anime ever created, works so spectacularly bad that they transcend mere failure and become unintentional comedies. These shows aren't just bad. They're the kind of bad that makes you question whether the animators were secretly replaced by artistic-minded octopuses with a grudge against human entertainment. They're so atrocious that they've spawned their own cult followings, not unlike how people slow down to observe particularly dramatic car crashes on the highway. The animation is so choppy it could double as a slideshow presentation for a corporate meeting about declining quarterly profits, except that would be more exciting. The character designs appear to have been conceived during a fever dream after consuming expired sushi, and the dialogue sounds like it was translated from Japanese to English to Klingon and back to Japanese using nothing but a rusty 1985 pocket translator with dying batteries. Yet somehow, against all odds and good taste, these shows got greenlit, produced, and inflicted upon unsuspecting viewers worldwide. So join me as we don our hazmat suits and dive headfirst into this radioactive waste pool of animation. Not because it's good, but because sometimes witnessing true disaster is the only way to appreciate the masterpieces. Let us begin our painful pilgrimage with X-Arm, a 2021 abomination so legendarily terrible that it makes amateur flash animations from the early 2000s look like Renaissance masterpieces in comparison. Based on a manga that deserved better treatment than being dragged behind a car for 20 miles. This sci-fi travesty follows a teenager whose brain gets digitized and installed into a superweapon. Unfortunately, it appears the animator's brains were similarly digitized and installed into malfunctioning toasters. The CGI looks like it was rendered on a calculator that was simultaneously trying to solve complex equations while being dunked repeatedly in bathwater. The characters move with all the grace and fluidity of department store mannequins being manipulated by puppeteers who are both drunk and undergoing severe electric shocks. The faces express emotions with the same range and subtlety as a potato. Actually, that's unfair to potatoes, which at least have the decency to occasionally sprout interesting shapes. The fight scenes, meant to be the highlight of this action series, appear to be choreographed by someone whose only reference for human movement was watching ants struggle to carry crumbs across a sidewalk. Backgrounds look like they were painted by an algorithm that was fed nothing but rejected Windows 95 screensavers and told to make it futuristic. Perhaps most impressively, the show manages to make advanced technology look less convincing than the cardboard boxes children use to pretend they're robots. If Ed Wood had decided to make an anime in the digital age while heavily sedated, the result would still have more charm and technical proficiency than X-Arm. This show isn't just an argument against bad CGI. It's an argument against the invention of computers altogether. Next in our parade of animated atrocities is Handshakers, a show that appears to have been created specifically to induce seizures in its viewers, presumably as some sort of elaborate medical experiment disguised as entertainment. The premise involves people who can summon weapons by holding hands, which sounds innocent enough until you witness the visual nightmare that unfolds. The animation combines 2D and 3D elements with all the harmony of a cat and dog fighting in a washing machine. The camera spins, whirls, and zigzags with such frenetic energy that viewers are advised to keep motion sickness bags handy, not for the content, but for the physical reaction to watching what appears to be footage shot by a camera operator having a seizure during an earthquake on a roller coaster. The backgrounds are a psychedelic soup of colors and shapes that bear no relationship to actual physical spaces, as if the art director's only instruction was, make it look like a unicorn vomited after eating nothing but neon signs. Character designs feature hair that defies not just gravity but several other fundamental laws of physics, and eyes so large and unnaturally positioned that they appear to be migrating off the characters' faces in search of better employment in a different anime altogether. The plot, insofar as one can be discerned through the visual cacophony, makes about as much sense as a philosophy lecture delivered by a parrot that has accidentally ingested hallucinogenic berries. Watching Handshakers doesn't feel like entertainment. It feels like your eyes are being assaulted by a gang of rogue pixels with a vendetta against coherent visual storytelling. If Picasso had suffered from violent motion sickness while attempting to animate on a computer that was simultaneously running every program ever created, the result would still be more visually pleasing than this ocular punishment. Our tour through animation hell continues with Mars of Destruction, a 30-minute OVA that somehow manages to pack more incompetence into its brief runtime than most bad shows achieve across multiple seasons. This masterpiece of failure follows a special forces team fighting aliens, though you'd be forgiven for not realizing this from actually watching it, as the storytelling has all the clarity of a mud puddle during a monsoon. The animation appears to have been outsourced to particularly untalented children who were described what anime looks like over a bad phone connection. Characters are off-model so consistently that it becomes the only consistent thing about the show. At one point, a character appears to grow a third arm not as a plot point, but simply because someone forgot how many limbs humans typically possess. The action scenes have all the dynamic energy of a sloth on sleep medication, with dramatic moments punctuated by still frames that look like they were drawn by someone who has heard of human anatomy but considers it more of a loose suggestion than a rule. The voice acting delivers dialogue with all the emotion and timing of an automated customer service system, while the music sounds like it was composed by randomly dropping various objects onto a keyboard. The plot twists are less twists and more completely random events that make no sense within the established narrative, including a reveal about the main characters that contradicts everything previously shown with such confidence that you almost admire the audacity, if not the execution. If an alien civilization intercepted only this OVA as a representation of human art, they would be justified in assuming our species had no visual artists, storytellers, or basic understanding of how humans move and speak. Mars of Destruction isn't just bad anime. It's an argument against the entire concept of visual media. Last but certainly not least in our catalog of catastrophes is Skelter Heaven, another short OVA that proves that sometimes the most merciful thing about terrible animation is its brevity. This mecha disaster follows a team of teenage girls fighting a giant tentacled alien, though follows implies a coherence that this show aggressively rejects at every turn. The CGI mecha battles have all the visual appeal and fluid movement of screensavers from 1997, with robots that move like they're battling not just aliens but also severe arthritis. Background characters are represented by literally motionless cardboard cutouts, not as a stylistic choice, but apparently as a sincere attempt at depicting humans. The alien itself looks like the result of a child being asked to design a monster after being described the concept of tentacles by someone who had only heard about them third-hand. Dialogue is delivered with such wooden performances that actual pieces of lumber would feel unfairly compared, while the script itself consists of technobabble so nonsensical it makes Star Trek's worst moments seem rigorously scientific by comparison. The climactic battle has all the suspense and visual coherence of watching someone else play a broken video game on a screen with several dead pixels. Perhaps most impressively, despite its short runtime, the show manages to include animation mistakes that would embarrass amateur Flash creators from the early internet, including characters whose mouths don't move when speaking, physics that obey no known laws of nature, and perspective shifts that suggest the artist had only a theoretical understanding of how three-dimensional space works. Skelter Heaven isn't merely bad animation. It's what other bad animations have nightmares about becoming when they grow up. In conclusion, these animated disasters serve an important purpose in the anime ecosystem. They represent the floor against which all other works can be measured and found superior. They remind us that in art, as in life, failure can be more spectacular and memorable than mediocrity. They unite viewers worldwide in a collective experience of disbelief, laughter, and the occasional worry about permanent eye damage. These shows transcend mere badness and achieve a kind of twisted greatness. They are so thoroughly, committedly awful in every aspect that they achieve a perverse perfection in imperfection. They are the animated equivalent of the Big Bang, chaotic explosions that violate all known laws, yet somehow create universes of unintentional hilarity. So the next time you watch a merely bad anime, remember these legendary disasters and be grateful, for you have not truly known bad animation until you've witnessed these monuments to human error. These shows aren't just the worst of anime. They're cautionary tales about what happens when ambition wildly exceeds talent, budget, common sense, basic artistic ability, fundamental storytelling competence, and possibly sobriety. And for that uniquely educational experience, We can be perversely grateful while simultaneously hoping that no one ever attempts to outdo these spectacular failures. The collective sanity of anime fandom may not survive an even more impressive disaster.